And welcome back, fourth and long fans. It's your AFL correspondent, Coach Donnie Hess, here with another awesome Donnie's Disposals. And today I have a couple of awesome guests here to do something that I've really excited to do. We're going to take a look at AFLW, and my two guests here today are a couple of ladies from the Chicks Talking Footy Podcast down in Melbourne, a podcast that I have absolutely loved finding. I found a couple years ago, and ladies, this is awesome to have you on. We have Fee and Bree. You guys want to introduce yourselves here?
Hi, Donnie. Yes, it's Fiona here. I remember we had you on our show towards the end of last year, so we've developed a cross-Pacific friendship, which has been lovely.
And Donnie, Breezer here, big Tigers fan, as you know. Caught your interview with Peggy, which was wonderful. Love my NFL as well, so just throwing that in there. But yeah, great to be here.
Awesome. In fact, actually, I think it's kind of funny. The one NFL team I keep an eye on is the same one you do. I've always loved the Cincinnati Bengals, so it's always kind of fun to see your tweets on that. So I got to ask, ladies, I know last year's AFLW was kind of just one of the weird ones. I know COVID was just kind of absolutely nuts and kind of threw it all to whack. But I mean, what are kind of your thoughts about last year and kind of the challenges that the AFLW dealt with, and kind of what are the changes coming up to this year?
Well, last season, where the AFLW was happening between February and April, and right in the middle of that, obviously, something like a global pandemic hit. And the first thing that happened was they decided to cut the last two games of the season and go straight to the finals. But even that wasn't possible in the end. Remember the speed of which everything was happening back in March last year. Yeah, it was literally day by day, and I really felt for the girls because you got to think the AFLW players aren't like the male players in that they're not full-time athletes, most of them yet. So they were giving up. They're working part-time. Some of them working their jobs, then going to training at night and getting 5 or 6 hours sleep and doing it all again, and putting study on hold or taking unpaid leave from work, all to be athletes in the AFLW. So for the season to be cut short like that was really tragic, and I think the sacrifices that the women had made, it made it just that bit more painful. I mean, it was painful for all sports for sure, but I really felt for the girls for that.
And also, there was no premier, Donnie.
Mm.
So, the season had no premier, and which was a shame for especially some of those top level teams, right at the top who had won the semi-finals, like Fremantle, for example. They went through the season undefeated. So, there was a couple of teams that were really in form that, couldn't really show their wares in the back end of the season to finish off as premiers. So they'd be disappointed as well.
Yeah, I remember keeping an eye on that, and that was the one thing that did was kind of sad about the ending. It was just so anticlimactic because Frio had such a great season, and I think everybody was expecting them to win the flag unless there's some kind of kookiness happened, which again last year was just kind of nuts. But it did it was so anticlimactic because all of the issues with COVID kind of hit right at the absolute worst time. And I did feel so sad for the ladies just because their season really, they were kind of the afterthought, and that really kind of stunk for me. So it's like, I think that was one of the reasons that I really wanted to do this. I wanted to promote it a lot more because I think I've seen many of the games. I think the games are awesome. I think the skills are getting better each and every season. And I'm so looking forward to this season. I don't have a team myself, so I consider myself kind of the free agent of fandom. I'm not even sure I'm going to make a fandom or not, but I'm thoroughly going to enjoy this, and I will definitely try to make this a bi-weekly review. So kind of going off that, let's kind of look at going into this season. Are there any teams that you really are interested in seeing how they're going to go this year? Kind of like preview a couple of the teams in this going into the season.
Yeah, I'll start. I'm really interested in seeing how my team goes. Richmond, they were winless last year, so and sacked their coach in the off season. So we've got a new coach. We traded heavily to get in some experienced players. So Richmond fans are keen to get that first win in AFLW. So I'm keen to see that. And I'm really interested to see how Carlton goes, because Carlton loaded up again and got themselves just a gun midfielder from Melbourne in Elise O'Day, just to top up what they're already doing quite nicely. So I think Carlton really consider themselves, heavy finals chance to take home the premiership this season, I would think. They're my two.
Yeah, on top of that, I would also rate North Melbourne. I think they're very, very strong team, and have been building their women's team for years with the Melbourne University football club, and they've really committed to that. And also St Kilda, I think they've only been in the comp for a year now, but I think they've got some really good players coming through with Caitlin Geyser and a lot of the team that they've been building this year, and I'm excited to watch them play. Also, I think they're a sneaky chance for a premiership. Also.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to see can Freo keep it up after last year's undefeated season. I think the really biggest thing is they weren't super active in the off season, but I think they're so strong. So it's definitely going to see how that kind of, and then travel definitely with COVID is definitely going to see how kind of some of these teams handle it and everything like that. The good thing is we'll cross our fingers that we don't have to worry about any hubs for these ladies, but
Well, we've already had a bit of movement, because here in Australia we've got very, very little COVID. We've all but eliminated it in some sense, but we do have these outbreaks that happen from hotel quarantine, and over Christmas and New Year's, New South Wales had a big outbreak, and so the GWS Giants moved to Albury, which is kind of on the border of New South Wales and Victoria. And then regional New South Wales got into a bit of trouble, so then they've moved to Adelaide. So I expect that we will see bits and pieces of that, probably not like it was last season here in Australia, but I expect that we'll have to have a flexible approach. But thankfully Victoria's, where a lot of the teams are based, is very stable at the moment.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing. I mean, I got to give it to you too. Your country has handled it so much better than ours. I'm not even going to lie there. Not even going to lie there at all. So we won't go into that particular topic. But
let's not talk about that.
I got to ask you ladies. I mean, we kind of already discussed a couple of the teams we're really looking at going into this season. But I got to ask, who are your kind of your favorites? Who are your kind of flag favorites? Who are the teams that right now going into this season, we don't know how injuries are going to go. We don't know how lists are going to handle kind of the fluctuating. Who are your favorites to maybe win the flag this year?
Mine are definitely Carlton, and I think Fremantle as well.
I would have picked those two, and maybe Melbourne.
Well, Melbourne for me, I was going to put them in the interesting category, because they actually lost a lot of talent in the off-season. Okay. They lost, for example, Elise O'Day, they've lost Alicia Newman, Bianca Jacobson. Yeah, there's been a ton of movement down at Melbourne to rebuild their list. So Melbourne will be interesting to see how they handle all of those changes that have moved on. Might have missed their opportunity last year. But another interesting thing that happened, Donnie, is there's been some changes in the way that the comp is actually structured. Mm-hmm. So for up until now, the game's been run, or the competition's been run as a conference system. So they've had Conference A and Conference B, which really didn't work out in 2019, particularly because we had one conference that was so much better than the other. And it really wasn't fair to the bottom teams of the top comp to not get into the finals. And look, the conference system was probably as welcome as a cancer diagnosis down here in Australia. We're certainly not used to that style of competition in football. It's never been done before. So they've wiped that out now, and they've got one single ladder, which I think is going to be a lot more fair and balance out where the teams will sit come finals a lot better. And it's also going to be ticketed for the first time. So up until now, the games have been free. So, where a lot of the critics of AFLW are like, you're only getting the crowd you're getting because it's free to go, as if we'd give up a whole afternoon of our weekend just because we're saving $10. But now the tickets are going to cost $10, and people have to pre-book
and especially around safety with COVID, we'll have to pre-book to go to games. You can't just rock up on the day and buy a ticket. So I think there's some really exciting changes that will balance out the competition a lot more, and make it easier and
I
more
don't think
fair.
there's been an official announcement about the final structure yet, but the assumption is that it will follow the AFL structure, so it'll be the top 8 sides, and that's consistent with how they ran the conference system as well. So, yeah, waiting for an official announcement about the final structure, but we assume it's going to be the top 8 teams.
Yeah, that would definitely be nice, and I think it's really interesting that they did throw in the ticketing system this year, and which I agree that the COVID tracking, which again is so much better, in that situation, and it is going to see are there going to be people deterred from the ticket price, which again, $10, that's really not that expensive. I don't know why that should really deter people, and I think with the
Two coffees, two
well,
lattes.
exactly, and with the increased numbers in youth footy and youngsters down in that area, I think you're going to find people that are going to go. Families are going to take them. And with the fact that most of the games aren't being held at the massive, they're being held at smaller grounds, which are a little bit easier to get tickets and a little bit easier for families to get to. I think it's nothing but good. I'm super looking forward to it. I'll be up at 2:30 in the morning watching some of these games live. I'm super excited for it. Ladies, this has been an absolutely awesome conversation. I'm really looking forward to this season. And I think Fee, you did say that you wanted to let our audience know that I think this year you're doing the Pride game again as well.
Well, actually, this year's is historical because they're actually doing, in round 2, a whole Pride round. So every game will be celebrating LGBTI Pride. And the history of this kind of goes back to, 2016 in the AFL, where we had our first ever game between St Kilda and Sydney in the men's competition celebrating Pride. And for those of us who were there that night, it was a very emotional evening because, football and sport hasn't always been a welcoming place for LGBTI players and supporters and coaches. But to see, a rainbow arc on the football field and the players wearing rainbow socks and, clear policies being developed for clubs and the AFL around inclusion and terms and conditions around entering the grounds and all of that sort of thing, we've come a long way. But it's always just been one game. And then when the AFLW launched, the Bulldogs and Carlton hosted a Pride game, have done that for the last 3 years. And the Chicks Talking Footy team have hosted the broadcast for that and called the game for the Pride games in the AFLW. And it's always been an amazing day. Like the Whitten Oval, there would be 12 or 13,000 people at capacity there, even for Pride games that weren't, had no consequence. Like often we played, I remember one year we played in the last round and it had no consequence on the ladder, but still full turnout at the ground because, at the football ground, there's drag queens and, people that you just normally wouldn't see at the football. Darcy Vesio, one of the stars of Carlton, she wore a trans-coloured mouth guard during one of the games. It's a beautiful time. Look, the thing is, us gays, we know how to party, so it's always a fun time. And this year's a historical time because it's actually the whole round at the women's game. And again, women often pioneer in these spaces as well. So the men haven't done a full Pride round yet. It's the women leading the way in this. So the AFL are going to do some things at all the significant games that weekend, which is round 2, the first weekend of February.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's absolutely awesome, and that's one of the things that I take pride in with the club with Sydney that I support is that they're part of the Pride round, and one of these days I'm going to make sure that I get one of those rainbow colored jerseys or socks. I want to do that so bad, but unfortunately the paying for the shipping can get kind of expensive a little bit getting over here. So it's always fun.
Yeah, your club has been amazing. Like the Sydney Swans, we have a big parade with literally hundreds of thousands of people in Sydney every year called Mardi Gras. And the Sydney Swans have done, they do a float now there every year and the players jump on a float parade down Oxford Street in Sydney. So, and they were the first to develop a diversity inclusion plan, which has led the way for a lot of other clubs to put that together. So your club has definitely pioneered in that space.
Yeah, and that's always awesome. But so I thought to end this episode, because I always love this and I've always appreciated it, is I thought let's go through round one real quick because it's coming up really soon. I'm super excited for this. Let's go through round one and let's would you guys ladies mind doing a real quick tipping and we can see who you guys like in some of these games?
Yeah, gosh, it's always hard to tip in round one, isn't it?
I know, because you never know. You just never know.
Quite know where people are at.
Alrighty, so the first game of the week, it looks to be the old rivalry, Carlton and Collingwood. Who do you ladies have?
Ooh, Icon Park 2. That's a classic game. I'll go Carlton. Breezer?
Yeah, I think it'll be close, but yeah, I think the Blues will be too strong at home.
Yeah, I mean, Collingwood have improved last year.
They have.
In fact, they would have made finals had they gone ahead, but I'd still probably tip Carlton on that one.
Yeah, I think I'll join you on that one. I have to go Carlton. I agree. I think Collingwood will make it a pretty close game. So second game of the week. Many of my American fans are super excited for this one. The Western Bulldogs versus St. Kilda.
Oh, St. Kilda, yeah, St. Kilda. They probably performed the best last season of all the new teams. So, and Bulldogs are really disappointing last year. They missed the finals for the first time. So I'm going St. Kilda.
Yeah, it's also at their ground in Moorabbin. So they'll have, when St. Kilda play at their home ground, it's an oval in a suburb called Moorabbin, but it's a real spiritual home. You know, the male team doesn't play there now because it doesn't have the capacity, but the women have started playing there again, and it's a really special game when they're playing. So I would tip St. Kilda as well.
Yeah, as much as I would, Danny Marshall, as much as I would love to cheer for her, I think I'll have to go with St. Kilda on this one as well. So next one, Melbourne versus Adelaide.
Oh, interesting one. So this is in Casey Fields, which is is Melbourne's home ground. Ooh.
And Erin Phillips is back, I believe.
Yeah, but she's no longer captain.
No.
Chelsea Randall's taken solo ownership of the captaincy.
And they've lost some experience to the Crows. So and they look like they're going to lose Ebony Marinoff.
Yeah, she was naughty on the weekend.
First few games of the season. So, tough one. Let's go the D's at home.
Yeah, I'll go the D's.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know. And plus, we don't know how Erin Phillips's knee is going to handle after all of her ACL issues. So I think I'll go with the D's just for the home field advantage. So then we'll hop up to Queensland Metricon, the Suns versus the Eagles.
Ooh. I actually think the Gold Coast Suns could do all right as well. They've showed some definite promise, and they've got some good leadership and coaching up there. I'd probably tip the Gold Coast for that game.
Yeah, Gold Coast made finals last season. So, I think they'll win comfortably up there.
Yeah, and I'll go with you guys again. I think I'll go with the Suns on this one. And so then we got to go.
It's looking lopsided, this tipping, isn't it?
I know. It's exactly. Breezy, we got to go with you. Richmond versus Brisbane.
Oh, this could be our first win. So
really?
Yeah, this could be our first win ever. So let's go the Tigers at home.
I'm going to go the Lions. The Lions actually play well on the road. And, I've been a strong team for years. And, sorry, Breezer.
I get to be the tiebreaker. I don't know. I don't know. I'm feeling like, first time maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Let's go Richmond. I'll go with Richmond just once, just to see how we go here. So
excellent.
Alrighty. So next game at GMHBA, we got Geelong and North Melbourne.
Geelong, when they play, their ground's called the Cattery. The Geelong Cats, and they're very hard to beat at home. And they've also drafted very, very well during the AFLW draft. So I would definitely go for them at their home ground.
Ooh, I reckon North Melbourne.
Well, the tipping just heated up, didn't it?
It definitely makes it interesting.
I just think North are a mature outfit. They didn't really lose a lot in the off-season. They managed to keep the majority of their list. So, I think North Melbourne will be too strong for the Cats. And the Cats have lost their captain in Melissa Hickey who retired last season, so they've lost a bit of experience.
Mhm.
Yeah, although Meg McDonald's taken over the captaincy there, and it'd be interesting to see how she leads the team, but I think she'll be very good in the
Definitely.
long run. Not sure about straight away.
Yeah, definitely. And I know North Melbourne that first year they came in were absolutely electric, but they had brought in so many people. I don't know. I'm feeling a road win. I'm thinking North Melbourne in this one, but I think it'll be close. I think this will be a really good game down in the
Yeah, this one
Cattery.
will be good.
And then last but not least, out in the Fremantle over Freo and GWS.
Definitely Freo for me.
Yeah, I'd probably have to say Fremantle as well. Yeah, GWS, Yvonne Bonner hasn't been able to get to Australia this year. One of the Irish recruits, and she'll be a big loss for the GWS Giants. She was terrific last season, so I think they've lost a bit GWS. And they lost their captain who retired, Amanda Ferrugia.
Yes.
So Alicia Eva takes over. But I think Fremantle have kept their list intact pretty much, so I think they'll be too strong.
Yeah, it'd definitely be interesting. The other thing will be is that do they get a little bit of emotional help after the loss that GWS had with Jacinda? I can't remember her last name, but unfortunately, I don't know if enough emotion is going to help them get by a difficult Freo team. But I hope the GWS team has a good season after all kind of the heartache that they've had to deal with this last off season. And I know us over here in the States got to know Jacinda a lot too, so I think it's been hard for us a little bit too, but unfortunately, I don't know if that's going to be able to get them over the hump over a very good Freo team. Well, ladies, this has been an absolutely awesome conversation. I know Bree's got to she's got to get back to work, so we don't want to keep her too much longer. So I want to thank you guys again so much. I will definitely be keeping an eye on your podcast as soon as you guys are back up running again on Joy. I'm hoping that several of the listeners on here will be able to find you. What's the just to remind them again, what's the name of your podcast and where can they find it?
So we're called Chicks Talking Footy. We're launching back on the 27th of January, and you can find us on the Joy website. So it's joy.org.au/Chicks Talking, or is it forward slash or backslash? I can never remember. But
One of
Chicks
those two.
Talking Footy, yeah.
And then I found you on Apple, so.
Yeah, right. So you can find us on Apple, and our if you just search for Chicks Talking Footy on the Apple Podcasts, we're definitely there. And for those in the US, that's great because you can listen to our show and not have to wake up at 2:00 in the morning to listen. So we try to have a fun chat, but also talk to people that perhaps aren't part of the mainstream media as much.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. So
also, Donnie, I just want to say thank you so much for your support of AFL in the US, and I think it's really exciting for us that there's so many people in America that are following our game and love and are passionate about our game. We talked to quite a few of you on Twitter, but I think you're doing such a great job, and I hope that you'll be able to play in your 2 inches of snow again sometime soon.
Well, unfortunately, COVID we actually had some communications with some of our people. It's definitely going to have to see how it all goes. We're hoping that the vaccine can get rolled out so we can play. I know a lot of the guys on the Roosters here in town, and even the ladies, we're all super. We want to get out and playing, but we got to be safe. And with several of us having high risk factors and different stuff like that, we all want to take care of each other. But footy is something that I think a lot of us fell in love with, and to be able to connect with people in Australia and be able to share the love that most of us have for the game is something that I've taken a lot of pride with, and for me to be able to help spread the women's game as well is something I'm super excited to do this year with using this particular podcast with Donnie's disposals, doing rounds, whether by rounds or weekly rounds. I still haven't completely figured that out yet, but it's been a lot of fun. So Breeza had to go. Unfortunately, she can't say bye at the end. This has been Donnie's Disposals. Again, thank you so much, Feast, for joining us here. And that'll be it. And hope everyone has a great night.